Hello again, and thank you so much for joining me here on my channel, where we discuss classic literature, writing, rhetoric, and today, logical fallacies. I am Dr. Whitney Kosters, and I'm a professor of English here to help you think more critically, write more effectively, and help you create and maintain your credibility when arguing a point. So if you're interested in any of that, please be sure to hit that subscribe button right below you so that you don't miss out on any of the weekly videos that I post. Learning logical fallacies is really good for everyone, not just students, because we are in constant communication with others, whether it be your kids, friends, family, community, government, teachers, whoever. And we're often being persuaded to do one thing or believe another, whether it be in advertisements, sales, politics, religion, life in general. And unfortunately, we're all guilty of committing and falling prey to logical fallacies, which are arguments that rely on faulty reasoning. They can be illegitimate arguments or irrelevant points to the argument, and they're often identified because they lack evidence to support the claims. And because they often are plausible, they can be very, very persuasive and easily believed if you're not careful. And doubly unfortunately, it's not just easy to fall prey to them. It's very easy to rely on logical fallacies in your own writing. And this is no good, because if you employ logical fallacies, then you undermine the logic of your argument and thus your authority, standing, and credibility with your reader. So in this lecture, I'm going to discuss and give you examples of some of the most common logical fallacies so that you can recognize them in others' writing and avoid them in your own. Let's start with the Strawman Fallacy. This involves misrepresenting an opponent's position to make it easier to refute their claim. So these arguments often oversimplify opposing views or disregard inconvenient points in favor of points that are easy to argue against. In many instances, the person committing the Strawman Fallacy highlights the most extreme position of the opposing side. For instance, if it were argued, teens should be taught about contraception methods so they can practice safe sex should they choose to have intercourse, someone committing the Strawman Fallacy would rephrase that as, proponents of sex education just want to give kids license to have sex without consequences. You can see how extreme this is and how it's twisting words to make the argument seem far more despicable than it actually is. Now let's move on to the hasty generalization fallacy. It is exactly what its name says it is. This is when people are too quick to generalize everyone or everything based on the action of one person or the characteristic of one thing. An example of this is, because I had bad service at the Starbucks in Brooklyn, I'm going to have bad service at any Starbucks. Having a bad experience at one coffee shop has no bearing on any other coffee shop, even if they share the same name. You can see how this fallacy could lead to a lot of prejudice, racism, stereotypes, and discrimination when applied to people because it leads to an inference drawn from insufficient evidence. Remember, to draw valid inferences, you must have sufficient evidence, including a random sample of the population, a selection large enough to represent fully the subjects of your study, and an objective methodology for sampling the population or evidence. You must always qualify your claims appropriately, and in doing so, you'll avoid committing the hasty generalization. The post hoc ergo propter hoc is a fallacy that essentially says, after this, therefore, because of this. So this is a conclusion that assumes that if A occurred before B, then B must have been caused by A. And here's an example. I drank tap water and now I'm sick, so the tap water must have made me sick. In this example, the person assumes that if one event chronologically follows another, then the first event must have caused the second. However, this illness could have been caused by any number of things. Maybe this person has been stressed or sleep deprived, or maybe they were already getting a cold and didn't know it, or maybe they just ate something bad the night before. Who knows? Without more evidence, it's unreasonable to claim that the tap water made them sick. The non sequitur fallacy is another one that many people commit. This is an argument in which claims, reasons, or warrants don't connect logically. So one point doesn't follow another. For instance, if a child says to his parent, "You don't love me or you'd buy me that bike." The claim is, "You don't love me." The reason is because you haven't bought me a bike. Therefore, the warrant is buying bikes for kids is essential to loving them, which is obviously not true. No responsible adult would endorse this because love isn't dependent on buying things. And I think people tend to use the non sequitur fallacy a lot in emotional arguments with their loved ones. So be very, very careful of that. Have you guys ever seen Idiocracy? It's a really frightening movie because there is a lot of truth to it. Basically, far into the future, humankind is really dumb, except for this one guy from the past. The dumb people have been watering their crops with an electrolyte-fueled drink called Brawndo, which is killing the crops. And when the guy from the past questions it, they argue the fallacy called begging the question or the circular reasoning fallacy. The dumb people say, Brawndo has what plants crave. It's got electrolytes. Smart guy says, well, what are electrolytes? Do you even know? They say, it's what they use to make Brawndo. Smart guy says, but why do they use them to make Brawndo? To which they reply, because Brawndo has electrolytes. So basically, this argument assumes as a given what is trying to be proved, essentially supporting an assertion with the assertion itself. It's an argument that just goes in circles and circles and circles, and there's no getting out of it. The slippery slope fallacy makes the assumption that a proposed step will set off an uncontrollable chain of undesirable events when procedures exist to prevent such a chain of events from happening in the first place. This is an easy one to commit, especially if you're an anxious person. An example of the slippery slope fallacy is, if I don't get an A on the test tomorrow, I won't get into a good college, and then I won't be able to find a decent job, and I'll be stuck living with my parents forever. So basically, if I don't get an A on the test, I'll end up living with my parents forever. There's no logical sense to this claim. Or, we've got to stop them from banning pornography. Once they start banning one form of literature, they'll never stop. Next thing you know, they'll be burning all the books. Clearly, there's not any evidence to support this pretty extreme claim that the writer is making. The bandwagon fallacy argues that because others think or do something, then it must be correct or true. So, for instance, if I say 75% of women want to have children before the age of 30, you should too. It assumes that the reader wants to be part of the group, and it implies that the opinion is popular and it's part of the majority, and therefore it must be correct. Now, there are tons of other logical fallacies, but as I said earlier, these are some of the most common. Keep an eye out for them when you speak to people, when you read, and as you're presenting your own ideas to others in writing or verbally, because you don't want to make really big and impactful decisions or have a hand in others making big decisions in life because of faulty reasoning. Since we're at our end, it's my time to remind you to check out my other videos for more help with writing, rhetoric, and literature. I will see you guys there.